It was a sunny Saturday afternoon in a quiet neighborhood. Two young boys, Jamal and Malik, were shooting hoops on the cracked basketball court near their home. Their sneakers squeaked against the pavement as they took turns making shots, their laughter echoing across the empty street. It was the kind of afternoon where nothing much happened, just the simple joy of being outside and enjoying the game. Jamal was the older of the two, tall for his age with quick feet and an even quicker smile. He was the kind of boy who always seemed to be in motion, whether he was dribbling a ball, running after a stray dog, or helping someone in need. Malik, on the other hand, was more quiet and thoughtful. At just 11 years old, he was the younger of the two, but he was already showing signs of being an incredibly smart and responsible boy. He had always been the one who noticed small details, like the way the light changed in the sky before a storm, or how to fix things that broke around the house. As they played, the sound of an engine broke through their game. Both boys turned their heads to see a large, sleek black SUV slowly driving down the street, coming to a stop just ahead of them. It was unlike any car they had seen around their neighborhood. The shiny paint, the tinted windows, and the bold, polished wheels made it look almost too fancy to be real. They watched as the car came to a halt and the driver's side window rolled down. A woman in her late 40s, dressed in a stylish business suit, leaned her head out the window. She looked around for a moment, her brow furrowed as if she was trying to figure something out. Then, with a sigh, she opened the door and stepped out onto the pavement. The boys noticed that she had a worried expression on her face, and as soon as she stood up, they saw what the problem was. The front passenger tire was flat. "Excuse me, boys," the woman called out, her voice slightly tense. "Can you help me? I seem to have a flat tire, and I have no idea how to fix it." Jamal and Malik exchanged glances. They had seen their dads change tires a few times, and although they were not experts, they knew the basics. Jamal had a little more experience, watching his father work on cars in the driveway, learning from every movement. Malik, too, had learned from his mom when she showed him how to handle simple car problems, though he was less confident when it came to handling a real flat tire. But neither boy hesitated. They were always ready to help someone in need. "Don't worry, we can help you," Jamal said with a grin, trying to reassure the woman. "We've seen our dads do it plenty of times." The woman smiled, her relief obvious. "Thank you so much. I'm in a bit of a hurry, and I really don't want to be late for my meeting. I just don't know where to start." "Don't worry, we've got this," Malik said confidently, his small frame standing tall as he walked over to the back of the car to grab the spare tire. He felt a little nervous, but his excitement to help kept his fears at bay. Jamal got to work first, pulling out the jack from the trunk and setting it up under the car. Malik handed him the tools he needed. The woman, still standing by the side of the road, watched as the boys worked with surprising focus for their age. They chatted a little as they worked, but their attention was on the task at hand. "So where are you headed in such a fancy car?" Jamal asked, glancing up as he twisted the wrench to loosen the bolts. The woman laughed softly. "I'm heading to a big meeting in the city. I'm Katherine Johnson, by the way. I run a tech company." "Wow, a tech company," Malik said, his eyes wide. He had always been interested in computers and gadgets, so hearing about someone who worked in that field was exciting for him. "Yeah. It's not easy work, but it's rewarding," Mrs. Johnson replied, her voice sounding a little less tense now that the boys had taken control of the situation. "You boys seem pretty smart. I bet you could do something like that one day." "That would be amazing," Malik said. Feeling a little shy but grateful for the compliment, Jamal finished loosening the last bolt. And with a few more turns, the tire was ready to come off. They worked together to lift the car slightly and replace the flat with the spare. The entire process took less than 20 minutes. And by the time they were done, the tire was securely on the car. And the jack was back in its place. "Wow. "That was fast," Mrs. Johnson said, clearly impressed. "You boys really know what you're doing." "We've had practice," Jamal said, wiping his hands on his jeans. "It's always good to help out when someone's in trouble." Mrs. Johnson smiled at them. "I really appreciate this. You saved me a lot of time. How can I thank you?" The boys looked at each other and shrugged. "You don't have to thank us. We were happy to help," Jamal said. "Well, I can't leave you empty-handed," Mrs. Johnson insisted. She reached into her purse and pulled out a couple of bills. "Here, take this for your time." The boys shook their heads. "No thanks," Malik said. "We just wanted to help." Mrs. Johnson chuckled. "You're good boys. Sometimes people who do good deeds don't get the thanks they deserve. But I promise your kindness won't be forgotten." With that, she got back in her car and started the engine. "Thanks again, boys," she said, waving as she drove off down the street, leaving the boys standing there with smiles on their faces. Little did they know that small act of kindness would lead to something they could never have imagined. The sun was beginning to dip lower in the sky, casting long shadows over the basketball court as Jamal and Malik stood watching Mrs. Catherine Johnson drive away. For a moment, the air felt still, almost as if time had paused to acknowledge the strange and unexpected encounter they had just had. Neither of them had expected the day to turn into something so memorable. The thought of helping a complete stranger, especially someone as important as Mrs. Johnson, had never crossed their minds. The two boys often helped neighbors and friends with small tasks around the neighborhood. But this was different. This wasn't just a simple chore. It was something that made them feel like they had done something bigger, something that mattered. Jamal was the first to speak, his voice full of excitement. "Can you believe we just helped her change a tire? And she was so nice about it. I thought she was going to be all stressed out or something, but she was calm the whole time." Malik nodded, his mind still racing with the unusual encounter. He could hardly believe it. "Yeah, I didn't think she'd let us help at first. I mean, she's got a nice car, probably some fancy mechanic on speed dial. But when she let us fix it, I felt good, you know." Jamal grinned. "Yeah, I think she really appreciated it. We did a good job. I mean, we're just kids, but we knew what we were doing." The boys stood in silence for a moment, reflecting on their actions. They didn't expect anything in return. Helping people was just part of who they were. But there was something about the way Mrs. Johnson had smiled at them that made them feel proud. It wasn't often they got to do something that felt so important. As they started walking back home, they chatted about the upcoming school week. Malik was talking about his latest science project, while Jamal was already thinking about basketball practice. The day was almost over, and they had almost forgotten about the strange encounter. But then something unexpected happened the next morning. As Jamal and Malik walked home from school, something caught their eye. There, parked right in front of their house, was a car that could only be described as jaw-droppingly beautiful. It was a Rolls Royce, gleaming in the afternoon sun. The kind of car that only the wealthiest people seemed to own. The boys stopped in their tracks, eyes wide with disbelief. "That's not real," Jamal said, rubbing his eyes as if trying to wake himself from a dream. Malik blinked, looking at the car again. "It has to be a mistake. I've never seen a car like that around here." Just as the boys stood there, staring, the door to the Rolls Royce opened. And out stepped none other than Mrs. Catherine Johnson, the woman they had helped just the day before. "Hey there, boys," she called, smiling warmly at them as if they were old friends. "I was hoping I'd catch you here." Jamal and Malik's mouths hung open, unable to believe what they were seeing. How could this be? Why was Mrs. Johnson here? And why was she driving such an expensive car? "Mrs. Johnson?" Malik asked, his voice tinged with surprise. "What are you doing here?" Mrs. Johnson chuckled softly and walked toward them, her heels clicking on the pavement. "I wanted to thank you both for helping me yesterday." You did something really kind, and I haven't forgotten it." Jamal and Malik exchanged confused looks. "Thank us?" Jamal asked. "But we were just helping you with your tire." "I know," Mrs. Johnson said, her voice kind but serious. "And that's what made me want to do something for you. You didn't ask for anything, but you still helped me. That kind of kindness deserves to be rewarded." The boys stood there, still in shock, as Mrs. Johnson continued. "I've been thinking about it all night. I don't usually do things like this, but I wanted to show you that good deeds are noticed." She paused for a moment, her eyes scanning the street, then turned back to the boys. "I'm not just here to say thank you. I have something for you." Both boys stared at her, wondering what she could possibly mean. Was she going to give them money, a gift? They didn't expect anything, but the curiosity was overwhelming. "Can we come inside?" Mrs. Johnson asked, gesturing toward the front door of their house. "I'd like to speak with your families too, if that's okay." The boys hesitated. They had never really expected to meet someone like Mrs. Johnson in their neighborhood, let alone have her visit their home. But she was kind, and the boys could see she wasn't doing this out of obligation. She genuinely wanted to show appreciation. They both nodded, their hearts pounding with excitement. As they walked toward the house, Mrs. Johnson followed behind them. She was gracious and down to earth, something the boys hadn't expected from a woman who drove a car worth more than everything they owned combined. Once inside, Mrs. Johnson met their parents, who were just as surprised to see her as the boys had been. They all sat in the living room, where she talked about her business, her work, and how she valued people who gave without expecting anything in return. She shared stories about her journey to success, how it wasn't always easy, and how she learned the importance of paying it forward. "We live in a world where it's easy to be selfish, to only think about ourselves," Mrs. Johnson said. "But people like you, Jamal and Malik, remind me that kindness is still out there. That's why I want to offer you something, a chance to learn, to grow, and to dream bigger than you ever thought possible." Jamal and Malik listened intently, amazed by everything she was saying. They had never expected their simple act of kindness to lead to something like this. What started as a small favor had turned into an unforgettable experience, one that was about to change their lives in ways they couldn't even begin to imagine. Mrs. Johnson left a few hours later, but not before leaving her number with the boys' parents. "If you ever need anything, don't hesitate to call," she said with a smile. "And remember, always be kind. It will take you further than you ever thought possible." As the boys watched her drive away, they couldn't help but feel like their lives had just shifted. The world had opened up in a way they never expected, all because they had chosen to help a stranger in need. The days that followed the unexpected visit from Mrs. Catherine Johnson felt surreal to Jamal and Malik. They could hardly believe what had just happened. One day, they were just two regular boys, playing basketball and helping a stranger with a flat tire. The next, they found themselves at the center of an incredible act of generosity from someone they never imagined would notice them. It was a bright Wednesday afternoon when the phone rang at Jamal's house. Jamal and Malik had just finished their homework and were sitting on the porch, chatting about their plans for the weekend. They were still buzzing with excitement from Mrs. Johnson's visit, and the story of how they helped her seemed to spread quickly around their neighborhood. Everyone was amazed that they had helped such a well-known businesswoman, but Jamal and Malik just felt like it was no big deal. It was simply the right thing to do. "Hello?" Jamal's mom answered the phone, her voice warm and calm. The conversation was brief, but Jamal and Malik could see her expression change from curiosity to surprise. She glanced over at them as she spoke into the receiver, her eyebrows raised. After a moment, she hung up and stood up from her chair. "Boys," she called, her voice tinged with disbelief. "You're not going to believe who just called." The boys' heads snapped up at the mention of their names. "Who?" Malik asked, his curiosity growing. "It was Mrs. Johnson," Jamal's mom said with a smile. She wants to do something special for you two." Jamal and Malik exchanged confused looks. They had already received her kind words and the visit, but now it seemed like Mrs. Johnson wanted to do even more. What could that be? "She's invited you both to dinner at a restaurant tomorrow evening," Jamal's mom continued. "And she wants your families to join her as well." Jamal's jaw dropped. "Wait, dinner? With Mrs. Johnson?" "That's right," his mom replied. "She said she wants to treat you for helping her, and she wants to spend some time talking with your family." Malik's eyes grew wide. He had never been to a fancy restaurant before. The thought of sitting down with a billionaire, surrounded by fine dining, was almost too much to process. "Do we have to wear suits or something?" Jamal asked, half joking, but also genuinely unsure. He'd never been to a formal dinner and wasn't sure what was expected. His mom laughed. "You don't need a suit. Just wear something nice. Mrs. Johnson will probably be dressed up, but you'll be fine in your best clothes." The boys were still in shock. Dinner with Mrs. Johnson? It didn't seem real. They had simply helped her with a flat tire, and now they were being treated like VIPs. They spent the rest of the evening in a daze, wondering what the next day would bring. The following evening, they arrived at the restaurant, a place called the Silver Oak, a high-end spot known for its luxury ambiance and incredible cuisine. The building itself was grand, with tall marble columns and large glass windows that gave a clear view of the sparkling city skyline. As they approached the entrance, Jamal and Malik exchanged nervous glances. This wasn't the kind of place they usually went to. This was a place for people who had money and power. Inside, Mrs. Johnson was waiting for them at a large table near the window. She was dressed in a sleek black evening dress, her hair perfectly styled. Despite her wealth and status, she greeted them with the same warmth and kindness that had impressed them the day before. "Welcome, welcome," Mrs. Johnson said as she stood to greet them. "I'm so glad you could make it. Please come sit down." The boys felt both nervous and excited as they sat at the table. Their parents joined them, and the dinner began with light conversation and introductions. Mrs. Johnson was gracious and genuinely interested in getting to know everyone. She asked about their lives, their dreams, and how they were doing in school. Her questions were thoughtful, and it quickly became clear that she wasn't just interested in their stories. She cared about them as individuals. "You boys have such good energy about you," Mrs. Johnson said as they all enjoyed appetizers. "It's rare to see kids these days who are so kind-hearted, especially when they don't expect anything in return." Jamal, who had always been the more outgoing of the two, smiled shyly. "We just like to help people when we can. It feels good." "Goodness and kindness go a long way," Mrs. Johnson agreed. "I believe that's one of the most important lessons in life." As the evening went on, Mrs. Johnson shared her own life story. She spoke about the early days of her business, the struggles she faced, and the sacrifices she made to build her empire. She didn't sugarcoat her journey. It had been filled with challenges, rejection, and moments of doubt. But through it all, she had learned the importance of perseverance and the value of surrounding herself with good people. "I built my company from nothing," Mrs. Johnson said. "It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. And I'm here to tell you that you can do the same, no matter where you come from. Hard work, a good heart, and the right mindset can take you farther than you ever imagined." Malik, who had been listening intently, couldn't help but feel inspired. Mrs. Johnson's words resonated with him deeply. He had always dreamed of becoming someone successful, but hearing her speak made him believe that his dreams were within reach. "Thank you for sharing that with us," Malik said, his voice quiet but filled with sincerity. "It makes me feel like I can do anything if I just keep working hard." Mrs. Johnson smiled at him. "That's exactly the mindset you need. And remember, kindness is just as important as hard work. People will always remember how you treat them." As the dinner progressed, The boys' parents engaged in conversations with Mrs. Johnson as well. She was genuinely interested in hearing about their lives, their struggles, and their hopes for the future. It didn't take long before everyone felt comfortable, and the evening was filled with laughter and meaningful discussions. Before they left, Mrs. Johnson gave the boys a small gift, a set of books about entrepreneurship and leadership. "I want you both to keep learning and keep dreaming big," she said with a smile. "These books are for you to read whenever you need inspiration." Jamal and Malik couldn't believe it. A billionaire had just treated them to a lavish dinner, shared her wisdom, and even gave them gifts. They left the restaurant that night with more than full stomachs. They left with a renewed sense of possibility and a feeling that anything was achievable with hard work, kindness, and a little bit of luck. The boys' lives had already begun to change in ways they couldn't fully understand. But they knew one thing for sure. Their chance encounter with Mrs. Johnson had opened a door to a world full of opportunities, and they were ready to step through it. The next day felt like a dream to Jamal and Malik. They woke up still feeling the effects of the incredible dinner with Mrs. Katherine Johnson. It had been the kind of evening they'd only ever seen in movies, luxurious, inspiring, and full of unexpected kindness. But what surprised them even more was how Mrs. Johnson had left them with more than just a warm memory. She had given them something that would stay with them forever, a new perspective on life. As the morning sun streamed through the windows, Jamal and Malik sat on the porch, reliving the night before. They couldn't stop talking about all the things Mrs. Johnson had said, the stories she'd shared, and the way she made them feel like their dreams were within reach. "I can't believe she's real," Malik said, shaking his head in disbelief. "It's like she's some kind of superhero or something. She's not just rich, she's, I don't know, like a real-life mentor." Jamal nodded, running his hands through his hair. "Yeah, she's got this way of making you believe anything's possible. I've never felt so inspired." But as the morning went on, neither of them could have expected what would happen next. Their quiet afternoon was suddenly interrupted when a sleek black SUV pulled up to the curb in front of their house. Jamal and Malik stopped mid-conversation and stared at the car, their mouths falling open in surprise. It was the same car they had seen Mrs. Johnson drive the day before, but this time, there was something even more extraordinary about it. Before either boy could move, the door to the SUV opened, and out stepped Mrs. Johnson herself. She was wearing a different outfit this time, a simple yet elegant casual dress, but she still had the same warm smile that made her seem so approachable despite her wealth and success. "Hey there, boys," she called out as she walked up to the porch, her heels clicking lightly on the pavement. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything." The boys stood frozen for a moment, unsure of what was happening. They had already been more than grateful for her kindness the night before. But now, here she was, showing up again, and they couldn't imagine why. "Mrs. Johnson?" Jamal finally managed to say, still in shock. "What are you doing here?" Mrs. Johnson smiled and gestured for them to sit down. "I know this might be unexpected, but I wanted to stop by and say thank you again. But this time, I've got something else for you." The boys exchanged confused looks. "Something else?" Malik asked. "But you already gave us a really nice dinner and those books. "Those were just the beginning," Mrs. Johnson said, with a twinkle in her eye. "I want to do something for you that will help you both on your journeys. Something to help you reach for the stars." With that, she reached into her bag and pulled out a large envelope. She handed it to Jamal, who looked at her with wide eyes. "What's this?" he asked, his voice filled with curiosity and a bit of confusion. "Open it," Mrs. Johnson urged, smiling gently. Jamal slowly pulled out the contents of the envelope. Inside were two large, colorful brochures, each with the words "Summer Tech Camp" printed across the top in bold letters. His heart skipped a beat. Tech camp? What did that mean? Why would Mrs. Johnson be giving them something like this? Tech camp? Malik repeated, looking over Jamal's shoulder. What's this about? Mrs. Johnson leaned in slightly, her tone becoming more serious, yet still encouraging. I know you boys are interested in tech and computers. You both have so much potential, and I believe this camp will give you a head start. It's one of the best tech camps in the country, and it's not just about learning to code. They'll teach you everything from robotics to game design. And I've already made arrangements for you both to attend this summer. Jamal blinked, unsure if he had heard her correctly. Wait, you want us to go to this camp? You signed us up already? That's right, Mrs. Johnson said with a nod. I've covered all the costs. The camp will provide you with the skills you need to move forward in the tech world, and I want you to have the opportunity to learn from some of the best. You both have something special about you, and I want to help you nurture that. Malik was the first to speak, his voice full of disbelief. But this is huge. We can't accept this. You've already done so much for us. We don't even know how to repay you. Mrs. Johnson raised a hand, cutting him off gently. No need to repay me. This is about your future, not about favors or gifts. When you're successful, you can pay it forward by helping others, just as you helped me. Jamal's mind raced as he looked at the brochures in his hands. The idea of going to a tech camp was beyond anything he had ever imagined. He and Malik had both always loved tinkering with gadgets and talking about computers, but they had never imagined they could attend something so prestigious. It seemed like a dream, one that was too good to be true. Are you sure? Jamal asked, still trying to process everything. It's kind of unbelievable. Mrs. Johnson smiled again. I'm sure. I believe in you both, and I think you'll make the most of this opportunity. You'll learn a lot, but you'll also meet other kids who share your interests. And maybe, one day, you'll be able to build something that could change the world. The weight of her words sank in, and for a moment, Jamal and Malik were silent, completely overwhelmed. This wasn't just a gift, it was a life-changing opportunity. It wasn't every day that someone like Mrs. Johnson stepped into their lives, offering them the keys to a future they had only dreamed about. We don't know what to say, Malik finally whispered. This is amazing. You don't have to say anything, Mrs. Johnson said softly. Just promise me you'll work hard and keep believing in yourselves. As she turned to leave, she added, I'll be cheering you on from the sidelines. Remember, no matter where you start, it's how you finish that counts. With that, she climbed into her SUV and drove off, leaving the boys standing in front of their house, holding the brochures in their hands. They stood there for a long time, staring at the papers and trying to make sense of what had just happened. One simple act of kindness had led to a series of events that neither boy would ever forget. They had been given more than just an opportunity. They had been given the chance to change their lives forever. The following weeks felt like a whirlwind for Jamal and Malik. What had started as a small act of kindness, helping a stranger fix a flat tire, had somehow blossomed into a series of life-changing events. They had never imagined that one simple gesture would lead them to the doorsteps of an extraordinary opportunity. The tech camp Mrs. Johnson had arranged for them felt like a dream. They spent hours reading through the brochures she had given them, their eyes wide with excitement and anticipation. The idea of spending an entire summer learning about technology, coding, and game design seemed like something from a movie, but even though they were thrilled, the reality of it was still sinking in. How had they gone from playing basketball on a quiet afternoon to being gifted an opportunity like this? They couldn't help but feel a little out of their depth. It wasn't every day that you received an invitation to something this prestigious, especially not in their neighborhood, where dreams often felt a little too far out of reach. As the weeks passed, Mrs. Johnson stayed in touch. She sent them messages encouraging them to prepare for the camp, even offering them advice on how to get ready for the technical skills they would be learning. Her messages were always kind and thoughtful. And she made them feel like they had someone rooting for them. Someone who believed in their potential. But what truly shocked them came one evening. Just days before the camp was set to begin. It was a warm summer evening. And Jamal and Malik were hanging out in the front yard, talking about what they expected from the camp. The sun was setting, and the sky was turning a brilliant shade of orange as they played a casual game of street basketball. They had both been practicing in preparation for the camp. Not because it would help them with tech skills, but because the idea of being out of their element had made them eager to prove themselves. "Do you think we're really ready for this?" Malik asked, dribbling the ball as he paced across the court. "I mean, it's going to be all tech nerds, right? People who've been coding since they were like 5. Jamal shrugged, his mind racing with thoughts of the camp. "I don't know. I'm nervous, but I also think it's going to be awesome. It's a chance to learn something new, right? And I think we've got this." As they talked, a sleek black car pulled up to the curb. Jamal and Malik paused their game and looked toward the car, recognizing it immediately. It was Mrs. Johnson's SUV again. "Looks like she's back," Jamal said with a grin. "Wonder what she's got for us now." The door opened, and Mrs. Johnson stepped out, looking as elegant as ever, even though it was just a casual visit. She greeted the boys warmly as she approached, her usual friendly smile lighting up her face. "Hey there, boys," she said. "I hope you're both doing well and getting excited for the camp." "You bet we are," Malik said, eager to tell her how much they were looking forward to it. "We've been practicing with computers and trying to learn as much as we can before we get there. Thanks again for giving us this chance." Mrs. Johnson nodded, clearly pleased. "I'm glad to hear that. I know you'll do great. But that's not why I'm here today." The boys exchanged curious glances. "What do you mean?" Jamal asked. "Well," Mrs. Johnson said, taking a seat on the porch with them, "I wanted to invite you both to something special before you head off to the camp. It's a little unconventional, but I think it's something you'll both enjoy. I'd like to invite you to a tech event I'm hosting this weekend. It's a gathering of some of the brightest minds in the industry, and there will be plenty of opportunity for you to meet others who share your interests. I've already spoken to the organizers, and they're excited to meet you both." Jamal and Malik were stunned. They had never been to an event like this before. The idea of being in a room full of experts in technology, people who had built companies, developed apps, and designed software, was both thrilling and overwhelming. "A tech event?" Malik repeated, his eyes wide. "But we're just beginners. We don't know half the stuff they'll be talking about." Mrs. Johnson smiled warmly, shaking her head. "Don't worry about that. Everyone starts somewhere. This event is meant for young people like you, those who are just starting to explore the world of tech. There will be workshops, hands-on demonstrations, and plenty of opportunities to learn from people who've been in the industry for years. You won't be out of place. If anything, it'll be a chance for you to connect with people who can help guide you on your journey." Jamal and Malik exchanged looks, both unsure of what to say. The idea of meeting industry experts and attending a professional event was beyond anything they had ever imagined. But the more they thought about it, the more it seemed like a golden opportunity to take their passion for technology to the next level. "This is crazy," Jamal said, his voice filled with disbelief. "How do we even get in?" Mrs. Johnson's smile deepened. "Don't worry about that. I've already arranged everything for you. All you need to do is show up. I'll be there to introduce you to a few people, but after that, it's all up to you." The boys stood there, both in awe of Mrs. Johnson's generosity. It wasn't just about the opportunities she had already given them. It was about how much she truly cared about their futures. She wasn't just offering them something that would benefit her. She was giving them a chance to grow, to network, and to find mentors who could guide them as they moved forward in the world of technology. "We don't even know how to thank you," Malik said softly, still trying to process everything. "You've already done so much for us." Mrs. Johnson placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "You don't need to thank me. Just make the most of the opportunities that come your way. Do what you love and it will pay off." With that, she stood up and smiled at them. "I'll send you the details for the event later this week. I think you'll both enjoy it. And remember, the most important thing is to keep learning and to stay curious." As she walked back to her car, Jamal and Malik watched her leave, the weight of the invitation sinking in. A tech event. A chance to meet the people who were shaping the future of technology. It was a lot to take in, but they knew one thing for sure: they were ready for the challenge. The world was opening up to them in ways they had never imagined. And as they watched Mrs. Johnson drive away, they couldn't help but feel that their lives were about to change in ways they couldn't fully understand yet. The weekend arrived faster than Jamal and Malik had expected. And as they dressed for the tech event, their nerves mixed with excitement. They had never attended anything like this before, an event for technology professionals, with industry leaders and young innovators from all over the country. It was the kind of experience that most kids their age could only dream of. But for Jamal and Malik, it was becoming a reality. All because of one small act of kindness that had snowballed into an incredible series of opportunities. The event was held in a sleek, modern conference hall downtown. The building was massive, with floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out over the city. When Jamal and Malik arrived with their parents, the sight of the place left them awestruck. The lobby was buzzing with activity, filled with people of all ages talking excitedly about new ideas and projects. There were sleek gadgets on display, a few interactive exhibits, and a massive banner hanging overhead with the event's name. Innovators of Tomorrow. The boys' parents, who were just as amazed by the venue, were equally proud. They knew this was a rare chance for their sons to learn and grow. They weren't from a wealthy family, and opportunities like this didn't come around often. Seeing their sons at the center of something so extraordinary felt like a dream. As they entered the main hall, they spotted Mrs. Johnson across the room, talking to a group of people. She noticed them right away and waved them over, her warm smile making the boys feel at ease. "Hello, hello." She greeted them, gesturing for them to join her. "I'm so glad you could make it. These are some of the leading experts in the tech world. You're about to meet some amazing people." Jamal and Malik stood beside her, feeling a little out of place among the older professionals. But Mrs. Johnson immediately introduced them to a few guests who were eager to talk to the young newcomers. She explained that they were from a small neighborhood, but had a big passion for technology, and before long, Jamal and Malik were in deep conversations with a group of young software developers. One of them, a 20-year-old named Liam, had started his own app development company and was in the process of creating an educational platform for kids. "I started coding when I was about your age," Liam said to the boys. "It was a little scary at first, but I kept practicing, and now I'm running my own business. You can totally do it too. It's about believing in yourself and keeping at it, no matter how hard it gets." Malik listened intently, his mind buzzing with ideas. He had always been fascinated by coding and computers, but hearing someone his age who had already found success gave him a new sense of determination. Liam handed him a business card and said, "If you ever need advice or want to bounce ideas around, reach out. I'd love to help." Jamal, who had always been more interested in the practical side of technology, building things, fixing gadgets, found himself talking to a group of engineers who designed robotics for hospitals. They were creating robots that could help with surgery, automate tasks, and even assist with patient care. One of the engineers, named Sarah, shared how she had once struggled with math, but found her passion for engineering later on in life. "I was just like you," Sarah said, gesturing toward Jamal with a smile. "I didn't always know what I wanted to do, but once I started learning about how things work, I couldn't stop. And now, I'm working on projects that make a real difference. You just have to find what excites you and keep learning. It might take time, but don't give up. Jamal's eyes lit up. For the first time, he realized that technology wasn't just about computers and apps. It was about creating things that could change the world. It wasn't just coding or programming. It was building solutions to real-life problems. Sarah's words stuck with him, and he felt the spark of inspiration ignite within him. Throughout the day, the boys learned more than they had expected. There were hands-on demonstrations of new tech, like virtual reality systems, augmented reality apps, and AI-driven robotics. They even got to try coding in real time with some of the latest software, guided by mentors who patiently explained the steps. Jamal and Malik felt like they were in a world that was light years ahead of their normal lives, but the best part of the day came when Mrs. Johnson invited them to sit down with a panel of entrepreneurs who had built successful startups in the tech industry. As they sat at the round table, listening to stories of failure, perseverance, and eventual success, Jamal and Malik began to see how their journey could unfold. It wasn't about overnight success. It was about learning from mistakes, building on small wins, and finding ways to innovate even in the face of adversity. One of the entrepreneurs, a woman named Claire, shared her story about founding a sustainable tech company that focused on creating eco-friendly gadgets. "When I first started, no one believed in my ideas," Claire said. "I was told it was a waste of time. But I kept going, and now we're making a difference in the way people view sustainability. My advice? Don't let anyone tell you your dreams are too big. If you believe in something, go after it, no matter what." Her words resonated deeply with both boys. They had always known that they wanted to make a difference, but hearing stories like Claire's gave them hope that they could actually achieve it. The panel discussion ended with an open Q and A session, where the boys eagerly asked questions about starting their own projects, how to build a team, and how to stay motivated. As the event wound down, Mrs. Johnson approached them again. "So what do you think?" she asked, her eyes sparkling with pride. "I hope today has given you some perspective. I know you'll do great things. Don't forget, it all starts with believing in yourself." Jamal and Malik were overwhelmed by everything they had learned. They felt like different people than the ones who had arrived earlier that morning. The world of tech was no longer something distant and unreachable. It was something they could be a part of, something they could shape. "I feel like I've learned more today than I ever could have in school," Malik said, his voice filled with awe. "This is amazing." "Yeah," Jamal agreed. "I'm ready to start building stuff. I think we can do this." Mrs. Johnson smiled at them, her eyes filled with encouragement. "I knew you had it in you. Keep dreaming big, boys. Keep working hard, and remember, the sky's the limit." As they left the event, Jamal and Malik couldn't stop talking about everything they had experienced. Their minds were racing with ideas, and for the first time in their lives, they felt like they had the tools to turn their dreams into reality. The tech event had been more than just an opportunity. It had been a turning point, a day they would always remember, as the moment their future started to take shape. Summer after the innovators of tomorrow. Event passed in a blur for Jamal and Malik, the excitement from meeting so many incredible people in the tech industry, learning about new technologies, and listening to inspiring stories had left them feeling motivated and determined. But even as they returned to their normal routines, finishing school projects and playing basketball together, they could not shake the feeling that something in their lives had fundamentally shifted. What had started as an ordinary day helping Mrs. Catherine Johnson change a flat tire had evolved into an extraordinary journey. It wasn't just the luxury dinner or the tech camp that had reshaped their futures. It was the people they had met, the lessons they had learned, and the belief that they could create something bigger than themselves. The world of technology and innovation was now within their reach. and they couldn't wait to explore it further. As the new school year began, the boys carried the lessons from their summer experiences into their everyday lives. They both had a renewed sense of purpose. They focused on their studies with greater enthusiasm, particularly in subjects like math and science, which they now saw as tools for creating the things they had always dreamed about. Jamal, who had once been more interested in hands-on projects, now found himself tinkering with coding as well. Intrigued by the idea of combining his love for building with the potential of technology. Malik, on the other hand, found himself diving deeper into programming. He started spending hours learning to code, using the resources Mrs. Johnson had recommended, and practicing through online platforms that allowed him to experiment with creating simple websites and apps. His mind was constantly buzzing with ideas that ranged from small personal projects to more ambitious goals, like creating tech solutions that could improve life in his community. They continued to communicate with people they had met at the tech event. Liam, the young app developer they had spoken to, had become something of a mentor to them. He answered their questions when they had trouble with coding, sharing valuable tips and encouragement. The business card he had handed Malik at the event turned into a bridge that connected the boys to a network of tech enthusiasts, developers, and entrepreneurs. They regularly attended webinars, workshops, and online forums where they learned about new technologies and exchanged ideas with others who shared their passion. But as much as their focus shifted toward technology and their dreams, they never forgot the pivotal moment when everything had begun. The day they helped Mrs. Johnson had changed more than just their perspective. It had also given them the motivation to help others in return. One afternoon, while they were sitting at the kitchen table working on a school project, Jamal looked at Malik and said, "You know what? We should do something for our neighborhood. We've learned so much about technology, and we should share it." Malik's eyes lit up at the suggestion. "That's a great idea. We could start something for the kids around here, teach them how to code, how to build things, show them the tech stuff we've learned. We could make it like a little club or something." The two of them began to brainstorm. They knew that there were other kids in their neighborhood who might not have the same opportunities, who didn't have access to the same resources or mentors they had been lucky enough to find. Jamal and Malik felt it was important to give back, to share what they had learned, and to inspire other kids who might be interested in technology but didn't know where to start. They started small. With the support of their parents and some help from a local community center, they set up a weekly after-school program where they taught kids in their neighborhood the basics of coding and tech. They began with simple tutorials, teaching them how to build websites, how to create small apps, and how to use coding to solve problems. The kids loved it. They were engaged, curious, and eager to learn. It reminded Jamal and Malik of how they had once been unsure of where to begin, but were now in a position to lead and teach others. Word spread quickly, and soon enough, more kids started showing up. Jamal and Malik were amazed at how much the kids enjoyed learning about technology. They saw the spark in their eyes, the same spark they had felt when they first discovered their own love for tech. As the weeks went by, the program grew, and they found themselves working with kids from other schools and neighborhoods as well. But it wasn't just about teaching coding. It was about showing the kids that they, too, could have a future in tech. They encouraged them to think creatively and to believe in their own ideas. They shared their story, how a single act of kindness had led them to this point, and emphasized that anyone, no matter where they came from, could make a difference in the world. One afternoon, a young girl named Tasha approached Jamal after class. She had been quiet throughout the lessons, but now she had a question. "Do you think I could really build an app?" she asked, holding up her phone with a shy smile. Jamal nodded. "Absolutely. If you can dream it, you can build it. It might take time, but you've got what it takes to make it happen." Tasha's face lit up. "I want to build an app that helps kids like me find scholarships for college," she said, her voice filled with determination. That moment was one that stuck with Jamal and Malik. It wasn't just about teaching coding. It was about helping others see the possibilities within themselves. The program had become more than just an after-school club. It was a movement to inspire the next generation of innovators, to show them that they didn't have to wait for someone else to open doors for them. They could create those doors themselves. And it wasn't just about the kids who attended the program. Word of their initiative spread throughout the community. People in the neighborhood began to see the value of technology in education, and more local businesses started reaching out to support the program. Donations of old laptops, books, and tech tools poured in. Volunteers came forward to help with mentoring, and the community as a whole started to rally behind the idea of creating more opportunities for the next generation. Looking back on everything that had happened, Jamal and Malik knew they had come a long way. They had started with nothing more than a shared love for technology and a chance encounter with Mrs. Johnson. But that one day, that one act of kindness, had set them on a path that had changed their lives, and the lives of others, in ways they never could have imagined. As they watched the kids in their neighborhood learn and grow, Jamal and Malik felt a deep sense of fulfillment. They were not just learning about technology, they were using it to make a real difference. Their journey wasn't over yet, but they were excited for what the future held. They knew that no matter where their passions would take them, they would always remember the power of kindness, the importance of giving back, and the endless possibilities that came with believing in themselves.